Hey everyone, this is Libertarian Black Man. We have an election coming up tomorrow, and if we want to make this country great again, we need to stop doing what we have been doing for many generations, voting for Democrats and Republicans. Enough with that. It is long past time that we realize that doing the same thing over and over again will yield the same results. If we want to get this country out of the mess that it's in, we need to start voting Libertarian. Among the most important issues facing our country today are the rising cost of health care and health insurance, the rising cost of college education, the rising cost of housing and cost of living. The opioid addiction and overdose situation has reached all-time high levels. Most people today, in fact every American, if you look at the federal budget, is saddled with more debt than it can ever hope to repay. And the ability to retire securely is just slipping out of reach of most people. We need to see the Democrats and Republicans as a party of one. They are two wings of the same bird. They both accept corporate money for campaign financing, which means they are pledging to do the bidding of the corporations before they even think about what is best for you. Both parties believe in big government. Now, what does big government mean? Big government is manifesting itself in many ways through unsustainable retirement programs, such as Social Security and Medicare. As I said in a previous video, those two programs are 40% of all federal spending. Endless deficit spending, meaning spending money that we do not have. Both parties support that, and that's why the national debt has risen for 49 straight years. That is unprecedented in American history, and it didn't matter if we had a Democratic or Republican president or Congress. The national debt continues to rise. Centralized financial policy, which means that we're going to have the government and central bank control the money supply, control interest rates, and control the entire economy, because he who controls the money controls the economy. Both parties agree that instead of you and I being able to individually control our own finances, the government and the central bank should control it by controlling the money supply. Both parties support spending money for college, spending tens of billions of dollars from government funds through the Higher Education Act, which was created 50 years ago to help people go to college, and in doing so, it has made college so expensive that people are in debt for years and generations after graduating. Both parties support maintaining the income tax code, which is probably the most complex document ever created. It is about 76,000 pages, and 90% of us at least are using professional services and spending billions of hours and dollars per year just to file taxes. So instead of just paying a tax, you pay money in order to pay the tax, because the tax code is so complicated most people don't understand it. We also have both parties supporting the fact that we have all of these federal departments controlling health, housing, trade, labor, land, crop production, education, transportation. I don't hear a single party calling for the repeal of any of these federal departments. Policing the world, which is what an empire does, having its military stationed in hundreds of bases all over the world, and having generations-long occupations throughout the world. We are spending 70-plus years in Japan, in Korea, in Germany, and no one is even questioning this. The Democrats, the Republicans have just decided that this is what America has to do, and there's groupthink between these two parties that we should maintain these bases, maintain these occupations, because that's our job now. We have to police the world and take care of everybody, when all these other countries have the ability to raise taxes and finance their own military. We've taken the cost on their cost of protecting themselves. We have taken on to ourselves. Very few of these political parties are questioning the drug war. Although we do have the issue cropping up and causing a change of thought among the Democratic Party, nobody is really saying we need to legalize all drugs. There is a movement to legalize marijuana. But if we're going to legalize one drug, we need to question why we are not legalizing all of them. In fact, we are spending billions of dollars a year federally on law enforcement activities, going after people who buy, sell, and use a substance, and prosecuting and imprisoning these people at the huge cost of the taxpayer. Both parties are in the tank for this type of thinking. Then we have the subsidies for housing under the American Dream Down Payment Initiative, a program that helps people buy homes. But all this does really is inflate the cost of housing. Just like money for college inflates the cost of college, money for housing does the same thing to housing. Nobody is calling for the repeal of this government program, along with many others that are designed to finance home purchases. We have Medicaid and welfare programs like SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, WIC, which is the Women, Infants, and Children Program, and TANF, which is the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Program. These programs were private sector programs many years ago. Nonprofit organizations would finance people who had lower incomes, who fell on hard times. And we formed our own mutual aid societies, fraternal organizations, and many others that would take care of these issues. Now, both parties see the government as responsible for taking care of the poor and the less fortunate. In the response to the 2008 financial crisis, majorities in both parties supported sending $700 billion to the banks that were failing and threatening to put the economy into a very deep recession. Majorities in both parties also supported increasing the level of coverage for bank deposits, in which the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, does. They cover bank deposits, making sure that if a bank fails, that the depositors get a certain amount of their money back. That coverage rate was $100,000 per depositor until the financial crisis, in which it was raised to $250,000 a year per depositor. That was supposed to be a temporary increase, but it was made permanent in 2010 with the support of both parties. As the government gets bigger, it has to tax more, regulate more, and spend more. That puts a burden on all of us because it slows down economic growth and makes it more difficult for each person to prosper. Libertarian philosophy is the philosophy of freedom, the philosophy of limited government. All libertarians agree that the current government is too big. They don't all agree on how small the government should be, but they all agree that where we are today is unacceptable, and we have to seriously backtrack on where we are in terms of our tax code, our regulatory regime, and our level of spending. Now, if you want to know who libertarians are, you can just take a look at a few people who've already either won office or run for office. Dr. Ron Paul, Dr. Rand Paul, his son. These two are medical doctors. Ron Paul is an OBGYN who also was a congressman from Texas for many years. His son is an eye surgeon, Dr. Rand Paul, who is a senator from Kentucky, currently in office now. And then you have some people who ran for office, like Peter Schiff, who is the CEO of Euro Pacific Capital, a hedge fund. He ran for office in Connecticut back in 2010 to be senator. And then you have Gary Johnson, who was a governor from New Mexico and ran for president 2 times, once in 2012 and once in 2016. He's currently running, and I sure hope he wins, but his chances are a long shot, but it doesn't matter. He's running for Senate in New Mexico as a libertarian. Now, some of the libertarians are academics, people who are in the classroom teaching and spreading the knowledge of economics and libertarianism. You have Dr. Thomas Sowell, Dr. Walter Williams, Dr. Walter Block, and Dr. Charles Murray, all PhDs, all who have spent their lives publishing books and doing town halls and interviews, helping people understand economics, how the market works, and why capitalism is a much better economic system than socialism. There is a third party that we can choose from. It is the Libertarian Party, which formed in 1971 to protest the Nixon administration's policies concerning the Vietnam War, specifically the idea of drafting people who were old enough to be sent to war but not old enough to vote, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and the suspension of the gold standard. And the gold standard really was the monetary system that prevented our government from printing too much money and creating too much inflation, which acts as a tax. When you have inflation, the money loses value, prices go up, and you find yourself having to pay more for the things that you buy. Not all libertarians are members of the Libertarian Party. In fact, they are scattered throughout other parties, such as the Constitution Party, the Republican Party, and many of them are independent of any party. They're unaffiliated, but they are libertarian in their personal philosophy. Third-party politics is where we need to go if we're going to start electing libertarians, because the two-party system that we have is simply not working for the people. But voting for a third party, unfortunately, is an uphill battle. In fact, the last time a third party won the House, the Senate, and the presidency in a single election was the Republican Party in 1860. By the way, that party was formed only 6 years earlier, in 1854. So it went from being totally unknown and not existing to taking over the government. But those days, unfortunately, seem to have passed. The last time a third-party candidate even won a state in a general election was George Wallace, who was governor of Alabama in 1968. And he ran as the candidate for the American Independent Party. He won 5 southern states: Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. The last time a third-party candidate even got a chance to debate alongside the Democrat and Republican candidates in a nationally televised debate and win more than 15% of the vote in a general election was Ross Perot back in 1992, and he was unaffiliated with any party, running as an independent that year. So as we see, the third-party politics, which is the way that we make progress in our politics, has been dying out for a very long time, and it has to come back. We have to stop seeing our revival as a nation as coming from one of the two main parties, because we've had them in power for generations, and all we do is go deeper into debt, deeper into economic dysfunction, and deeper into pessimism and despair about our whole national debate and our national understanding of issues. If you want to waste your vote in this election, here's what you do. Stand by and don't vote when there are libertarians on the ballot. Or cast your vote for a non-libertarian or progressive candidate. After all, these guys don't care about you. They're being financed by the corporate money, and they're going to do their bidding. Assuming that a vote for a Democrat or Republican is the lesser of two evils. It is not. In fact, both parties are the same. There is no lesser. They are both the same. If you want to have your vote not be wasted, vote Libertarian. There really is no other option. The Democrats and Republicans are going to continue to drill a hole in our national budget, our financial situation, and produce mediocre economic growth for this country. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we hope to see you in the next video.